everyone, and welcome to Freckles and Blondie, your weekly Lost podcast dedicated to discussing all things Lost. My name is Randy.
And I'm Tiffany.
And this week, we're discussing Season 1, Episode 6, entitled House of the Rising Sun. This episode was written by Javier Grillo Morax. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that name incorrectly.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. This is his first writing credit for Lost, although I think he does a bunch more episodes in the first and second seasons. And this episode was directed by Michael Zinberg, and it originally aired on October 27, 2004. So, did you enjoy watching this episode?
I did. I feel like Sun and Jin have been kind of a mystery up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really time for an episode about them. I like when an episode of Lost completely changes the way you look at a character.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's just everything is completely flipped on its head. I look at both of them differently now.
Yeah, which is fascinating.
Yeah. And we haven't really been much fans of Jin up to this point, and it's like this episode really, I don't know if it completely redeems him, but it definitely makes him more sympathetic.
It totally makes him so much more likable. You feel so bad for him in the whole situation.
Yeah. And it's nice to see like where he began. And
definitely.
Why Sun would even be with him.
Right.
Because on the island, there's like no indication of that at all.
Right. Yeah, in this episode, I was impressed by how well it juggled handling all of the different storylines. Because I feel like there always is, you can make the argument, but there's so much going on here with the flashbacks and then with the cave storyline and Charlie and Locke and, with Jin and Michael. It was well done, I thought.
Yeah, they weave together really well, all those storylines.
Mm-hmm. Okay, shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay. Previously on Lost, Charlie is doing drugs in the plane bathroom. Saeed, Charlie, Boone, Shannon, Sawyer, and Kate agree not to tell the others about the mysterious transmission from the Frenchwoman. And Jack finds fresh water in the jungle. We open the episode on a close-up of Sun's eye. She's smelling a plant while Jin catches fish down on the beach. Next to Sun, Kate and Jack are preparing to go and get some water for the camp. Kate asks Jack about his tattoos, and he doesn't give her any details. It's adorable, but Charlie is not impressed. He says Locke, or the Great White Hunter, is getting restless, and they should get a move on. Meanwhile, Sun is startled when Jin starts beating the fish he caught on a piece of airplane wreckage. And yeah, Jack and Kate are so cute. You know I had to say it.
They are cute. Though I'm with Kate, I'm like, those tattoos do not fit you, dude.
I know. Doesn't that make you want another flashback episode with Jack?
Sure don't.
Okay.
I just want him to tell Kate something
I know.
for once, instead of being like, no, I'm not telling you nothing.
But it's so cute.
They are cute. They're cute because those, I don't know, they're just charming in their interaction.
Yeah, they just have such good chemistry.
Yeah, I think they do.
Ugh. I'll try not to talk about them too much in this episode, but I don't make any promises.
Oh, and I love that we start on Sun's eye.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting because we started on Jack's eye, obviously. Mm-hmm. But who else have we done that with?
I don't think anyone. Did we start on Locke's eye?
I don't know if it was his eye, but it was a really similar position with him like laying down and then sitting up.
Right. Yeah, I like that they started that way too. It kind of, when it started, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But I'm not sure like why we would do just Jack and Sun.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because like if we did it with everybody, it would make a little more sense, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I don't like it. I don't know. I'm kind of changing my mind now.
You just talked yourself out of it. Okay.
I know. I mean, I found it interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I know what I'm thinking of. We started on young Jack's eye in
That's right.
his episode. So that made sense because it was also Jack.
Right.
But, whatever. Start on Sun's eye. I guess that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe certain writers like that more than other writers.
Yeah, I don't know.
We flash back to a fancy cocktail party. Jin is working as a waiter, and he gives Sun a note while making the rounds with champagne. Later, they meet alone. They kiss, and Jin assures Sun that her father is busy being a host and won't bother them. Sun suggests that they elope to America because her father will never allow them to get married, but Jin says he'll talk to her father. Jin then gives her a flower, saying he wishes it were a diamond, and they kiss again.
And they're so sweet.
It's so sweet. Ugh. It's so completely different than their dynamic on the island. It's really fascinating.
Yes. I mean, they're acting, first of all. It's like they're different people.
Yes, so true.
They seem years younger and like so carefree and innocent. It's just adorable.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way they introduce Sun because it's like we follow Jin as he's carrying like a tray through the crowd and you just see like all these women standing together and they're all in these like fancy dresses and you just see like the back of Sun and she turns around and it just blows your mind that Sun ever looked like this fabulous.
Yeah, it does. It's such a difference than what she looks like on the island.
Right. She's just like clearly really glamorous and wealthy and she doesn't seem that way at all on the island. Mm-hmm. And confident.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good point. It's very well done. I love it.
It's amazing to me the things that they can do in just a couple of moments that just change everything.
Right. That's so true. And yeah, both of the actors, Yoon Jin Kim and Daniel Dae Kim, they do such great work in this episode.
Yeah, they're amazing. Even in the flashbacks, their characters change so much.
Yeah.
And it seems totally natural. Like the transition doesn't feel forced at all.
Definitely. Abruptly, we cut back to the beach. A very angry Jin stalks over to Michael and Walt, who appear to be talking innocently. Jin punches Michael and proceeds to hit him repeatedly while trying to drown him in the ocean. Walt and Sun watch screaming, and we cut to credits.
And dang, Jin means freaking business.
Yeah, he does.
He is so angry.
It really seems like he wanted to kill Michael in that moment.
Like, he was relentless. It wasn't just like, punch, hey, I want this thing. It was like, punch, punch, punch.
Right. And it's such a startling, I mean, we just had that flashback scene where they're, in love and they're being so sweet. And the transition is so abrupt.
Yes. It's like, yeah, they're really cute. Now don't forget the way things are.
Right. It's so violent. I love it.
Yeah. It's intense.
Coming back from the break, Jin is still trying his hardest to kill Michael when Saeed and Sawyer break up the fight. Sawyer gives Saeed those handy handcuffs from the marshal, and Saeed cuffs Jin to some plane wreckage on the beach. Saeed asks Sun what happens, and she just stares at him.
Aren't you glad that Sawyer came to his rescue?
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, good for him, I guess.
I just said that to bother you.
I know you did. Yeah, it's fine.
He conveniently had those handcuffs in his pocket.
Yeah, like he's been carrying those around the whole time in case you need to use them.
Just in case. You never know.
That seems a little suspect, but...
For moments like this, which are to be expected.
I guess. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Jack leads Kate, Charlie, and Locke to the caves. When Kate asks Jack how he found the place, he says luck. Charlie suggests that someone look through the plane wreckage to see if there's anything useful. Jack tells him to keep an eye out for medical supplies and drugs. However, at the mention of drugs, Charlie sneaks off on his own.
Not that kind of drugs.
Yeah, Charlie. I like the music here when they come on the cave for the first time.
Oh, I didn't notice.
It's like whenever I hear that theme they use, in my head I've named it the Lost Discovery music, because I feel like whenever they go to a new place or something significant, that specific theme always plays.
I feel like I know what you mean.
Do you?
I don't remember the scene in particular, but I couldn't like recall exactly how it goes. Like I couldn't hum it for you, but I would know it when I heard it.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Charlie, now by himself, starts to take out his heroin stash, but suddenly Locke tells him not to move. Apparently, he somehow managed to find a beehive and stand directly on top of it. Charlie is freaking out, and Locke tells Jack and Kate to get something to cover up the hive.
Charlie is always the one who winds up in these situations.
I know.
It would only be him.
It's cute. I know, poor Charlie. I think it's funny because you probably don't know, but because I stalk Dominic Monaghan on social media, in real life, that actor is like really obsessed with insects and animals. And he like owns beehives, and he's constantly posting on Instagram about like his bees. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I thought it was so funny that he's like so terrified of them in this episode.
He probably begged to be the guy who stands on the beehive.
So true.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. Back on the beach, Michael is trying to explain that he didn't do anything to Jin and has no idea why he was attacked. Jin yells something in Korean, but of course no one can understand him. Michael suggests it could be a racial issue, and Sun gestures to her wrist, but Saeed tells her the cuffs stay on until they can figure out what exactly is going on.
I love that moment. Like when you don't know what's going on, and it's just totally different on rewatching it when you know that he's upset about the watch for her to be pointing to her wrist. Because it makes total sense for her to do that since she's worried about the watch.
Right.
And first, it makes total sense for Saeed to interpret it as she's talking about the handcuffs.
Right. It's so well done.
Yeah. It's so subtle.
Yeah.
They didn't need to have that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. We flash back to Sun, who's waiting for Jin after he went to talk to her father. Jin looks dejected at first, but reveals Sun's father gave him permission to marry his daughter. In return, Jin has agreed to work for Sun's father on a temporary basis. Sun starts to protest, but Jin pulls out a ring and says he can afford it now. They hug and Sun looks happy, which is immediately contrasted when we see her on the beach. And they're just so cute. They continue to be so cute.
They are, but this is definitely where like the first seed of worry comes in, because she clearly does not want him to work for her father.
Right.
You have to wonder why.
Yeah. But you feel bad because he looks so proud when he pulls out that ring and says, "Oh, I can actually afford to give you this now instead of the flower I gave you earlier."
I know. Him giving her these gifts, like that's definitely a common thread throughout this episode.
Yeah.
To watch the gifts he give her change.
Yeah, definitely. And again, such a contrast with the stuff that's going on in the island, with Jin almost just beating Michael to death. It's crazy.
Yeah.
In the jungle, Jack finds a suitcase to cover the beehive so Charlie can escape. However, before they can try this plan, Charlie moves and the beehive breaks apart.
Oh my God, Charlie.
I know.
I was just like, why? You stood still that whole time.
I know. Oh, Charlie. They all run, taking off shirts and trying not to get stung. Kate is startled when she comes across a mummified corpse in one of the caves. After the break, Jack is examining the corpse. It turns out there are two bodies, one male and one female. And according to how the clothing has decomposed, they've been there for at least 40 or 50 years. Jack pulls out a pouch from one of the bodies, and inside are two stones, one black and one white.
So those stones, they remind me of Locke with his backgammon pieces.
Yeah, they look almost exactly the same, don't they?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's lost, so I was going to say it has to be intentional.
Right.
But, like, yeah, it's lost. Duh, of course it is.
Right.
But it's cool. And it's very subtle. They don't even say anything about it. He just like picks them up and looks at them and he puts it in his pocket, right?
Yeah, it's hard to talk about this without giving away spoilers, but when you watch it and know it's coming, it's so cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And it's incredible to see a show this early on so confident to do things like that.
Right.
Every other show would make a big deal about it and explain it. But not Lost. You just better be freaking paying attention.
Right. And yeah, you're right when you say they were so confident because, I mean, again, no spoilers, but you don't really get the payoff from this scene until like season 5. So to have them planning, you know, that storyline for that long is crazy.
I know. They had to have not even known what it meant and just been like, we're going to put this in and we'll figure it out.
Probably. Yeah.
Someone really smart's going to figure this out later.
Yeah. I liked Jack's line. I think when Kate says, like, where did these bodies come from? And Jack's like, didn't you shoot a polar bear last week? Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
It's like, good point. Charlie and Locke find Kate and Jack. Charlie is complaining about the number of times he got stung. He gives Kate her shirt back and notices the bodies. Charlie asks if they were the people who were on the island before them. Locke looks confused since he doesn't know anything about the French transmission, but Charlie quickly covers it. Locke names the 2 bodies the island's Adam and Eve. Yeah, when he said that, it made me think, especially after our discussion last week about, you know, all the biblical references.
Yeah.
And the parallels. It's like, oh, here's another one.
Right. It's like he sees this whole island as a brand new beginning for everyone and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the new Adam and Eve in this magical place.
Oh, he's fascinating.
He is. He's just so committed, like from the very start. I love it.
Yeah. So much faith. On the beach, Sun is trying to take care of Jin's wrists, which is injured from the handcuffs. Jin is resistant. In a flashback, Sun comes home carrying shopping bags to find a present from Jin. It's a puppy. Jin asks her if she likes it, saying it will keep her company since he's working such long hours. Sun reminds him that not long ago, all he could afford to give her was a flower, but they're interrupted when Jin gets a phone call from her father.
I like the way she says it, too. She's like, remember when all you had to give me was a flower? That's all she needed.
I know.
She didn't want anything else. She just needed the flower. Jen, just get her some flowers.
Right. That's all she needs.
I mean, it's so sad. Like, he's clearly thrilled that he can buy her this fancy dog that, you know, cost a fortune. And she doesn't want this dog's company. She wants your company, Jen.
Right. And you feel for Jin so much because Sun has obviously, I mean, I guess we're supposed to assume that she's had money all of her life. Her father's obviously very successful and wealthy. And you get the feeling from this that Jin, you know, is working as a waiter, has probably never had a lot of money ever.
Right. He seems very excited to be giving her these fancy gifts.
Right. I can totally feel for him. I mean, to go that long without having any money and then to all of a sudden being able to buy her gifts, he's probably, yeah, I mean, he obviously thinks that's exactly what she wants from him.
Right. And she, who's had money her whole life, just needed the flower.
Right. Oh, it's so sad.
I know. You guys just need to get back on the same page.
Yeah, I really do. Back in the caves, Locke volunteers to stay behind with Charlie to help him go through the wreckage. He says it will be his opportunity to get to know Charlie better. Jack tells Kate that carrying all this water to the beach every day will be a real pain, but the caves would actually make a great shelter. Jack thinks Adam and Eve discovered the same thing. We don't need to bring the water to the people, Jack says. We need to bring the people to the water. Kate does not look convinced.
And I like this conflict. I feel like a lot of times, especially with Jack and Kate, their conflict is in miscommunication. But here, I mean, Kate hasn't said yet, but they clearly just have a fundamental disagreement about this.
Right.
She wants to be over on the beach and he wants to be in the jungle, in the caves. And both of them have like legitimate reasons for that.
Right. Good reasons.
Yeah. And that's like the best kind of conflict.
Yeah.
Because you can see both of their perspectives and it makes sense.
That's so true. And Jack's so sure that Kate is going to come with him and agree with him.
I know. He just like assumes she's on board and she just doesn't say anything. She clearly, I think she doesn't want to disappoint him.
Yeah. Oh, they're so cute. I can't. I feel like Jack, I mean, he kind of did this at the end of last episode, but he's really taken on this leadership role now. Like he's not fighting it anymore. He's made a decision. He thinks the caves would be a great idea and he's doing it. He's not, backing away from it anymore, which I like.
Yeah, I do too. He's kind of embraced his role. He's just now getting to the beginnings of why that role is so hard.
Yep.
I mean, we'll see more of that as it goes on in this episode, but...
Oh, poor Jack.
Rock, hard place.
Yeah.
Welcome.
This is going to be your life for the next 6 seasons. Back on the beach, Walt is playing in the sand near Jen. Michael comes over and words are exchanged. As Michael leads Walt away, Walt asks Michael what he meant when he said, "People like Jen don't like people like us." Michael says he didn't mean that, and he was just angry. Walt asks Michael what he did to Jen, and Michael says, "Absolutely nothing," asking, "What kind of man do you think I am anyway?" It turns out Walt's mom never really talked about Michael. Walt accuses Michael of not knowing anything about him, but Michael does know when his birthday is, which is more than Walt knows. This was so interesting to me, their whole dynamic.
Their dynamic is weird.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense because Michael has said before that he, hasn't had much of a relationship with Walt. And
right.
Now they're kind of stuck together. But he's talking to him like he's an adult. My note for this was, good job, Michael, you one-upped your kid. Because he's like, oh yeah, well, I know your birthday. And I'm like, this is not how you treat your child who doesn't know anything about you. It's not his fault he doesn't know anything about you. I don't know yet if it's your fault or not, but it probably is. It's
right.
More your fault than Walt's.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I've said before that Michael, he's definitely made some mistakes with Walt already in the past few episodes. I mean, if I was in this situation, I feel like I would be talking to Walt in the same way. If I all of a sudden was forced to be a parent after not being a parent for the last decade, I also would not know how to talk to Walt.
I don't think you'd be so snarky to your kid.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Especially since Walt just lost his mother like days ago.
Yeah, he's handling it much better than Jack.
Wait, than Jack?
Than Jack, who just lost his
I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. All right, we don't have to bring Jack into this, okay? We were talking about Michael and Walt.
I'm just saying, this kid's doing pretty well.
No, it's true. I don't like it either, but it is interesting. It makes me want to know more about that story.
Right. How did we get to this place?
Right.
Yeah, because he just clearly has no patience.
Yeah, but Michael also doesn't seem like the dad to just get up and abandon his family. You know what I mean?
He seems to care. He just doesn't seem to know how to go about it.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Yes, we will. Sun asks Jen to let her explain to the others what happened. Then maybe they'll let Jen go. Jen gets angry and refuses, saying Sun belongs at his side, and they will not explain themselves to a thief. We flash back to Sun. She's asleep on the couch with her dog when Jen arrives home, covered in blood that is not his. He rushes to the bathroom to clean up, and Sun begs him to tell her what he was doing and whose blood this is. Jen says he was working and won't give her any more details. Sun angrily slaps Jen. He stares at her and says he does whatever her father tells him to, and that he does it for them. Sun leaves. It's so intense and so sad.
It's heartbreaking because they both want the same thing. They just want to be together.
Right.
They both think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, you sympathize with both of them. Yeah, because Sun just wants Jin to talk to her.
Right.
And she never wanted him to work for her father. And Jin obviously loves her and just wants to provide for her. It's so sad.
Yeah. It's hard because we don't know exactly how much Sun knows about her father's business and
right.
what Jin is doing. Like when she slaps him, I was like, whoa, okay. Is she mad because she knows what he's doing? Or is she mad because she feels abandoned? Mm-hmm. Is this like, I need to give him a wake-up call? Like, it's hard to tell exactly where she's coming from. And there are a lot of reasons that she might act this way. Plenty of justifiable reasons. But right. I just am not sure.
Yeah, they leave a lot of it a little murky. You don't really know all the details.
And maybe that's good. Maybe that's just the way Sun feels right now. She doesn't know all the details either, and she's just confused.
Right.
And needs Jin to talk to her, and he won't.
Yeah, I mean, you get the feeling that if Jin had just sat down with her and told her exactly what was going on, maybe it wouldn't have gotten to the point it gets to later on.
Right. Like, talk to each other.
Right.
Why didn't you tell him, hey, I don't need all this money. Let's just go elope somewhere, and maybe this is like a Korean culture thing and they just wouldn't do that. And yeah, I just can't understand it. But I just feel like they need to communicate, and that's their whole problem right now.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I feel like another name for Lost could be, please just talk to each other.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? There's so many couples and relationships where so many things could have been so much easier if they just talked to each other.
I know, and that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I can't stand that because it's just annoying.
It is annoying. I feel like it's realistic though.
It is to a degree, but I'm sorry, I would not settle for Jin's answers here if my husband is coming home with blood all over him. I'd be like, no, sorry, we're having a real conversation right now.
Yeah, see, I probably would. I hate confrontation so much. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna... That's probably the wrong choice, but I get it.
See, I feel like your husband's covered in blood. You've crossed a line. It's time to discuss.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an extreme example, yeah.
That's the extreme reality of her situation, though.
Very true. Very true.
And I mean, you saying that that's kind of how you would react, that's basically how she reacts.
Yeah.
She does ask him, but she takes no for an answer, and I like to think I wouldn't.
Yeah, I like to think I wouldn't too, but I probably would. Back in the jungle, Jack and Kate are making their way back to the beach. Kate stops to tie her shoe and accuses Jack of checking her out, which he totally was. Jack tells Kate he was thinking of building a dam in the caves to make things easier. Jack tells Kate they'll have to do a lot of convincing to get people to move off the beach, but Kate isn't convinced just yet. And they're doing so much flirting in this episode. It's ridiculous.
They're just raising you up so that you enjoy the fall later.
I mean, yes, like, the end of this episode really just kills me. We'll talk about when we get there, but... At the caves, Locke and Charlie are sorting through the luggage. Charlie starts to make off on his own, but Locke tells him it's dangerous, and he's coming with him, even though Charlie only wanted to go to the loo. Charlie starts to head off anyway, when Locke tells him what he's been dying to hear ever since he crashed on the island, that someone has heard of his band Drive Shaft.
Hallelujah!
I know.
And of course it's Locke.
Of course. Who else?
Natural Drive Shaft groupie.
Yeah, you can totally see him at one of their concerts.
I had the thought, I was wondering, like, did he really know who Drive Shaft was? Or has he just heard Charlie talking about this so much that now he can repeat it back to him like he knew all along?
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible.
Because Charlie told him specifically in another episode, we saw Charlie say that to Locke.
That's so true. And Locke didn't say anything.
Right. So I feel like he could just be regurgitating what Charlie needs to hear right now.
Oh my God. I love that. I love that Locke would just be going around to people and listening in on like what they're telling everyone else and like saving those details for later in case he needs to.
Well, sure, but he didn't even need to do that with this because we saw Charlie tell him specifically about being in Drive Shaft.
Right.
It's a fun thing to consider.
That's cute.
Though it's also fun to think of Locke in his office listening to Drive Shaft on his headphones.
I love that image. Charlie and Locke talk music, and Charlie says it's been 8 days since he last played his guitar. Someone at the airport made him check his guitar, so he wasn't able to take it with the other luggage. Locke says he's sure the guitar will turn up soon, and when Charlie asks why he's so sure, Locke says it's because I have faith.
You sure do, Locke.
Yeah, it's a great scene. I love their dynamic.
Yeah, I kind of instantly feel like Locke is very paternal here.
Yeah.
He just seems very wise, and it seems like that's what Charlie needs. He needs someone looking out for him and kind of holding him accountable.
Yeah, he really does. Yeah, Locke's like the island's spiritual leader. Last week it was Jack. This week it's Charlie. He's just checking people off on his list. Like, right. Who needs help this week?
He really is. He's like, who needs some moral guidance? Here I am.
Yeah.
Come visit me in my office in the jungle.
Right. Jack and Kate come across Saeed, who is chopping some wood. Saeed catches them up on the situation at the beach, which he says he has under control. Jack talks about taking the first group of people back to the caves before nightfall, and Saeed is also not having any of it. Saeed accuses Jack of trying to form his own civilization and asks Jack what happened to live together or die alone. Jack counters by saying the only way they'll survive is to dig in together. However, Saeed says their best hope is to keep the signal fire burning on the beach and hope a plane or a ship spots them. Kate reminds Saeed that the caves are the only source of fresh water they've found, and Jack thinks that staying on the hot beach all day without water is suicide. Saeed leaves, saying he is not going to admit defeat.
All good points.
They all have valid reasons.
They do. Everybody makes sense, and I am so thankful.
Yeah.
I appreciate this, because they're all right. I do think it's ironic that right off the back of live together, die alone, they start separating.
Yeah, it is ironic. That was literally just last week.
And that's not Jack's fault, because Jack doesn't see why everyone doesn't just agree with him and come to the caves.
Right.
But they have a good point. I mean, up till now, every time Kate has gone into the jungle for an adventure, Jack's like, you need to be careful. You shouldn't just be wandering around the jungle. Now he wants everyone to live there.
Yeah.
Like, they have a point.
They do. I feel bad for Jack, because I feel like this is his first big decision he's made since, like, being their newly appointed leader. And like, half the people are freaking out. If I was him, I would be like, really? What do you want from me?
Yeah. It has to be frustrating.
Yeah.
But it's natural. That's exactly what would happen.
Yeah, that's true.
You're going to make a call. Well, half of these people are going to see it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And with valid reasons.
Yeah.
Because going to the caves really is going to make it much harder for anyone to find you for rescue. And at this point, what has it been? Like a week?
Yeah, like a week and a half.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be ready to toss in the towel on rescue yet.
Yeah, that's true. But when I think about just sitting on a beach for 8 hours without any water, I can see what Jack is saying when he says that's suicide. Because, I mean, that's awful. That sounds awful.
I do too. I feel like my way to go about it might be a compromise in that some people should live, near the water, and some people should live near the beach in case rescue does come.
Right. Or why couldn't they have all moved to the caves and then they would go down to the beach and keep the signal fire burning in shifts?
Yeah.
Today's Monday, like, Curly and Kate, it's your shift on the beach today. And you know what I mean? But everyone else still stays at the caves.
Right. Like, set up a shelter on the beach for just a couple people to be there at all times. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
You can be leader.
Yeah. I should be leading this group. No.
It's good because that addresses everybody's issues, really. Solves pretty much everyone's problems.
compromise, like you said.
Yeah, just taking the best from both solutions. Mm-hmm. Put them together. I do like that it's Saeed who has this butting of heads with Jack, because he's the one who I at least have been kind of also seen as a leader.
Right.
So it makes sense for him to not just go along with what Jack wants to do because Jack said it. He has been thinking about this himself and he has his own idea.
Yeah. His own idea, which is perfectly reasonable as well. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I also love how Jack asked him if he needed help with the beach situation. And Saeed was like, no, I've got this covered.
Yeah. I liked that too.
Because just a couple of weeks ago, I forget which episode it was, but I feel like Saeed and Kate were like, oh, where's Jack? Is Jack here? Like, we need Jack's help.
Well, I think what I've liked about Saeed up till now is that he hasn't been like that very often.
Yeah, just like the one time.
In general, I've always felt like he's been kind of okay with taking care of things himself.
Yeah, that's true.
So it makes sense for this conversation to be happening. Mm-hmm. I like it. And I like that they're both like, they're not jerks about it either. They're having a respectful conversation for the most part.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Like, I think Jack is upset that they don't just agree with him, but he doesn't freak out and yell at them.
Yeah. He can see their point, I feel like, at least a little bit.
I don't think he sees Kate's point, but I think he gets Saeed.
Yeah.
Kate hasn't really explained herself yet.
Well, yeah, I feel like at this point, Jack's still assuming that she's going to go with him because she hasn't really said either way at this point. Mm-hmm. On the beach, Saeed finds Michael and apologizes for being so suspicious of him earlier when he was attacked by Jin. Saeed then asks if Michael will be joining Jack's group who are going to live in the caves. Michael says he'll be staying on the beach in case a ship goes by. He doesn't want to miss it. Jack passes by Jen and gives him a bottle of water. He then finds Hurley, who is packing up to go with him to the caves. Hurley goes where the boar is at. Hurley then asks Jack the question everyone's thinking, what up with you and Kate? Jack doesn't give any details, but he doesn't deny anything either.
Jack, the master of saying nothing.
Oh.
But I like this. I like this going around the camp and, getting different reasons that everyone would make the different choices that they're making.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, and it all makes sense. Michael's priority is get him and Walt off this island.
Right.
So that's why he prioritizes the beach. Hurley's priority, I want some freaking boar. So he's going to the caves.
Yeah, it's well done. Which would you choose if you were on the island? The beach or the caves?
I was thinking about that. I don't feel like I would have a strong preference, except that I would want somebody to be on the beach. Because Michael is saying, I don't want to miss the boat if one comes. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if one comes, you say, hey, there's also some people down in the caves. And you go get them.
Right. So let's just be like, okay, this is it. Bye.
Right. As long as somebody was at the beach, I would have faith that they would come and get me.
Yeah.
But I think I'd be okay in either place because I also wouldn't mind being the person who makes the trek to the caves and gets some water. Like if nobody else wanted to stay on the beach, I would stay there and be like, all right, well, somebody needs to stay here.
That's nice of you. I would not volunteer for that job.
I don't think I'd be super thrilled to be there by myself, but at least I know the monsters in the jungle.
Yeah. I would probably choose the caves.
At least there's safety in numbers with the caves.
Right. And just sitting on a hot beach all day without water just sounds like a nightmare. At least there's water and shade in the forests.
Yeah. The jungle definitely sounds nicer. I just think, practically speaking, I want to make sure that if rescue is here, somebody is, looking out for it.
Yeah, I'm more of a pessimist, I think. At this point, it's been a week and a half. I'm like, all right, we need to clearly start building shelter and making a more permanent camp here because no one's coming.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be giving up quite yet.
I would.
Maybe making some contingency plans, but still being hopeful.
Yeah. Sawyer comes up to Kate, who's sitting alone on the beach. He asks whether she'll be coming with the pessimist to the cave or staying with the optimist on the beach. Both of them avoid answering the other's questions.
They're just dancing.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Do you dislike Sawyer and Kate scenes because you want Kate to be with Jack so badly?
Yeah, that's exactly what always goes through my mind, which I will admit is unfair. But it's just so hard.
My note for this scene was, oh my gosh, Sawyer steals a scene. Because I just feel like as soon as he starts talking, I just want to know what he's going to say next.
He is very engaging. I'll give you that.
And he breaks down the situation perfectly.
Yeah, he has a way of explaining things, which is always pretty much spot on.
Yeah. Maybe not what you want to hear, but it's usually pretty spot on.
He just doesn't say it in the best way.
Sawyer has no time for your feelings, Randy.
Whatever. Sun is sitting on the beach watching Jin, who is still in handcuffs. She sees Michael walking into the jungle to chop up some bamboo and follows him. In a flashback, Sun chats with a woman about redecorating her apartment. However, Jin, who is trying to work, is annoyed by the dog, and the two women go into the bedroom. The woman asks Sun if she's ready and if she's taken her lessons. Sun says yes, stating that she and Jin cannot reconcile their differences. The woman reminds Sun that her father and Jin will do everything they can to find her. Sun is to go to the airport, make an excuse, and leave. A car will be waiting for her. After she lays low for a while, her family will stop looking for her, and then she'll be able to move wherever she wants. She's to go to the airport at 11:15.
The escalation of this is just so intense.
Yeah, it's such a drastic solution to their problems, right?
Yeah. Well, it is, and it seems justified. I mean...
Does it?
Coming home with blood all over you, that would really bother me. Especially you not talking to me about it. If you can't talk to me about something like that, that's the end of this. I can see that thought process, and that's just our one little glimpse of her life.
Yeah, that's true.
God knows what else is going on. I just think it's amazing how every scene in their flashbacks just steps up so much from the scene before it.
Yeah, that's true.
You're just like, whoa, this is getting intense and more intense. And, oh my gosh, who are these people?
Right.
Who is your father? You must be feeling really desperate if you are thinking you have a better shot in life if your husband and your family thinks you're dead.
Right, and all your friends, and then you just go to a completely new country to start a new life. That's crazy.
And you have to be really motivated to be learning English.
Yeah, that's also true.
Like, she has to have been planning this for a long time.
Yeah, I wonder if she ever tried to talk to Jin again about, after he came home with all that blood on him, or if from that point on she just saw him as a lost cause, and that's when she started making, plans to leave.
Yeah, maybe that's why we saw that moment. Maybe that was the moment where she decided she didn't know what to do anymore.
Right. Ugh.
Because it didn't seem like she had any trouble confronting him, in that scene. And in all the scenes before that, they seemed perfectly fine.
Yeah, I know.
Talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly that changed, but it changed maybe because Sun shut down.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, it's so sad.
It is so sad. I just love that we see them happy.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows you how long this road for them has been.
Right. And that they really did love each other when they first started out.
All she needed was a flower.
Flowers could have fixed everything, Jed. Back in the jungle, Sun comes out of the bushes. She tells Michael she needs to talk to him in English. Crazy, crazy reveal.
I remember this blowing my mind when I saw it the first time.
Me too.
It's such a good twist.
It really is. It's almost as good as the lock twists when he came out on that wheelchair. It's so shocking.
Almost.
Yeah.
And they do well in setting it up because just like in Walkabout, we get the reveal at the end, and it puts so much into context. And you're like, whoa,
right.
Okay, let me rethink every scene we've had with Sun, where she knew what everybody was saying.
Right, because even at the beginning of this episode, when she is watching Jin fish down at the beach and Jack and Kate are talking, she has this look on her face. And I feel like if you go back and watch it, knowing that she can understand them, it's like, oh, she's like listening to them.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Michael is beyond shocked to learn that Sun speaks English. She explains that Jin doesn't know, and that the reason Jin attacked Michael is because of the watch Michael is wearing. Apparently, it belonged to Sun's father, and Jin was supposed to protect it. It was a question of honor. Sun then asked Michael for help. I love the look on Michael's face at the end of this scene. Like, how dare you ask me for help when your husband almost killed me for a watch, like, hours ago?
I love the double bomb drop. Not only does Sun speak English, but Jin doesn't know that she speaks English.
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge part of it.
It is.
It's just absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, I mean, to learn a whole other language and not tell your husband is... Ooh, that is crazy.
I don't know if I buy her saying it's a question of honor for him to have that watch. Because to me, the way he's been acting, it seems more like a matter of fear than honor. Like, what is Sun's father going to do if I lose this watch?
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually.
And not necessarily to him, like, maybe he won't let him be with Sun anymore. Maybe that's what is motivating him through all of this, is just a fear of losing Sun.
I kind of always wrote that off as Korean culture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but just honor is just seen differently over there. But yeah, I can totally see him. It does seem like he's more motivated by fear than anything else.
And maybe Sun thinks it is honor,
mm-hmm.
and doesn't quite understand the fear of losing her, because clearly, like, she doesn't get why he would do all these things.
Right.
She knows that he doesn't need to do all this for her, but he clearly doesn't know that.
Right.
So I guess she chalks it up to honor.
It's so fascinating.
It's so complicated.
It is. Oh, I love it.
That's what makes it wonderful.
Yep. In the jungle, Charlie is once again thwarted by Locke when trying to sneak off on his own. Locke tells Charlie to just hand the drugs over. He's going to run out eventually, and at least this way it will be his choice. Locke knows about pain and says he just wants to help. Charlie starts to walk away, but Locke asks him if he really wants his guitar back. Locke says the island will give Charlie what he's looking for, but he has to give the island something in return. After some deliberation, Charlie hands Locke his stash. Locke tells Charlie to look up, and there's his guitar sitting on the rocks above him.
I love this scene.
Me too.
I love everything Locke says to him.
Yeah, it's like just what he needed to hear.
It is, and I love the way he reframed it. You're gonna run out of this eventually, so let it just be your choice.
Right.
Like, take some control and some power over this situation.
Oh, it's so perfect. And the look on Charlie's face when he sees his guitar.
I know, he's so happy.
He's so emotional. Oh.
Like a kid on Christmas.
Yeah, it's lovely. I love Charlie.
I love Locke, and just everything he says is so double meaning.
Yeah.
The island will give you what you're looking for, but you have to give the island something. As soon as I heard this, I was like, well, what did you give the island, Locke? Because clearly he got his ability to walk. Mm-hmm. So what does he think he is giving the island?
That's a good point. Gosh.
I'm sure Locke has an answer for this.
Yeah, I'm sure he has a long, complicated
He has all
answer.
the answers.
Right.
I mean, I think his faith.
Yeah, and maybe just not exposing, like, all of the island secrets. Because he's the only one who's seen what the monster is at this point.
Right. He's given the island, like, his dedication and his loyalty.
Yeah, and I like this version of Locke. Sometimes I feel like his complete faith in the island gets grating, and it leads him to make some really dumb decisions.
Yeah, sometimes it can blind him to the reality of what's happening.
Right. But I like this version of it when has so much faith and he's just using it to help people.
I mean, he has faith that Charlie can stop this right now if he just decides to.
Right.
And he has a lot of perspective to know exactly how to talk to Charlie, knows exactly what to say to get him to stop. He knew he was doing drugs, though I guess he could know that just because he's been wandering around the jungle and found it.
Yeah, that's true. You're right, though. I mean, they haven't really had much interaction until this episode, so it's not like they've been hanging out this whole time.
He just seems to have a good read on people.
Yeah.
He knew what to say to Jack in the last episode, too.
Yeah, you're right. He's their spiritual leader.
Yeah. I mean, they keep referring to him as the hunter, but he's clearly so much more than that.
Right. Jack finds Kate on the beach and tells her it's time to go. However, Kate doesn't want to be Eve and won't join Jack's group in the caves. She says she can't dig in. Jack looks confused and asks her how she got to be this way and what exactly she did. Kate refuses to answer, saying Jack already had his chance to know. Jack leaves, and it's so heartbreaking.
Yep. Just talk to each other. Oh my God.
No. My note for this was, why do they have to be like this? I love them so much, but
I think this is why I don't love them so much. I don't dislike them. I don't love them like you do because of this. They do this all the time.
Yeah.
They're just constantly making things so much harder than they need to be.
I know.
I don't like the game of, oh, well, when I asked you, you didn't want to know what I did, so I'm not going to tell you. That's petty.
I guess. I mean, did Jack really have any right to ask her that? I mean, they kind of already moved on from that, haven't they?
It was a little random.
Do you know?
It doesn't have much to do with this situation.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't convince me of their closeness when they act this way. It just seems like they're incapable of just being open and honest. And I feel like that's really important to a relationship. Clearly, Sun and Jin, hello. They're showing you what can happen when you don't communicate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's just so hard when they have so much chemistry and they've literally been flirting this entire episode. So for them to get to this point, I think when I first watched this, I was like, oh yeah, they're going to go to the caves and then they're going to be together. What else there's no other option here. This is going to happen. And then when this happened, it was like, oh, why?
It's like they like each other, but they're both letting their baggage get in the way all the time.
Right. They're just looking for reasons why it can't work. Ugh.
Yeah.
They're making it so much harder than it has to be, like you already said.
The story of Lost.
Ugh, gosh.
What did you make of Kate's explanation? I just can't dig in.
I feel like, she just doesn't like staying in one place. We saw in her flashback in Tabula Rasa, she was on the run. She's only staying at, that guy's farm for a few months. I feel like Jack taking this group to the caves is kind of like a permanent, okay, we're going to, live here semi-permanently. We're going to build dams. We're going to make a home out of this place. And Kate, that's just not what her life has been before the island. And I don't think she wants it to be like that here.
He wants to set up house and she wants nothing to do with that.
Right.
I thought about that, and I also thought about the fact that she feels their connection and is talking about that as well.
Oh, yeah.
She can't dig in. She can't, commit to a thing with him, Because that's just as much locking herself down as playing house in the caves.
There's such mixed signals because, they've been flirting this whole episode and she seems like she's been so into it up to this point.
Right. She's clearly drawn to him.
Right.
But then when it comes time to, actually talk about something meaningful, she pulls away.
These two.
Hot mess.
I know. So frustrating. On the beach, Michael approaches Jin with an axe. He tells Jin, even though Jin can't understand him, that he found the watch and decided to take it because his broke and time doesn't really matter on the island. He then raises the axe and cuts the handcuffs, setting Jin free, but not before telling him to stay away from him and Walt. Sun watches this from the side.
I know. I kept wondering, do they not have the key to these handcuffs? Shouldn't they have the key? I would have appreciated a throwaway line from someone like, Sawyer, I found the cuffs, but I couldn't find the keys.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
It just seems so drastic.
I mean, it makes sense they don't have the keys because Kate was the last one to use them when the plane was going down. So obviously she didn't hold on to those in the crash. But
sure, but we have the marshal and we could have checked his pockets or something.
That's true. We flash back one more time to Sun at the airport in Sydney. Jin is waiting in line behind Jack, and Sun is standing off to the side. It's 11:15, and she sees a car waiting for her outside of the airport. She looks conflicted and keeps looking back at Jin, who eventually holds up the same type of flower he gave Sun in the first flashback at her dad's party. Sun, who is crying, eventually comes back to Jin's side, and he gives her the flower. When he asks her what's wrong, she says it's too beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this scene.
Favorite scene for me.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so heartbreaking.
It is. It's incredibly powerful.
Ugh.
In watching this, when you first see Jin with the flower standing in line, I thought she was imagining that. Like imagining the old Jin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't think he was really holding the flower until he came up and gave it to her.
That's so interesting. I've never seen it that way. But that makes sense.
I mean, when he gives it to her, I was like, oh, it's real. But it just seemed like such a surprising thing for him to be doing.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
Sun just, oh my Lord, the looks on her face. She just says so much without saying anything.
Yeah.
Her acting is unbelievable. Like,
yeah,
she can look at that clock and make me want to cry.
So true. She's great.
In that moment where she can't decide what to do, I can't decide what she should do. You know?
Right.
Like, I kind of want her to go and get her freedom and start a new awesome life. And then Jin with his freaking flower.
Right, because when he holds that up, you just immediately think about the first flashback scene when he gave her that flower. And it's just like, oh, but they really do love each other deep down so much.
Yeah. Ugh. He's still that guy. Like, part of him is still that guy. And she can't leave that guy.
Right. I mean, do you think she would have gotten in that car if Jin hadn't held up that flower? Was that the only thing that changed her mind? Or was, I mean, she was obviously conflicted about it, but
I feel like it is what changed her mind. Which makes it really freaking lucky that Jin happened to stumble upon this flower.
Yeah, that's so true.
Good freaking call, Jin.
Oh, so sweet.
Like, which way were you rooting for her to go?
Like, before or after she held up that, or he held up that flower?
Like, throughout the scene, I just feel like I'm wavering back and forth just like her.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at the beginning of the scene, when she's looking at the car out of the airport, I'm like, just get in the car, just go.
Right.
Then when he holds up that flower, I'm like, oh no, never leave him, son.
This is a lesson to men everywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
Really doesn't. Back at the caves, Charlie is playing his guitar when Jack arrives with the new tenants, which includes Sun, Jin, and Hurley. Hurley breaks out his portable CD player and headphones, and Willie Nelson's Are You Sure starts to play. We cut back and forth between the group at the caves and the group sitting around the signal fire on the beach. Sun unpacks clothes, Walt asks Michael when his birthday is, and everyone looks very pensive. We end on an alternating shot of Jack and Kate, who look sad without each other.
Womp womp.
This might be my favorite scene in the episode, to be honest. Yes, it's so good.
It's a good final scene.
It's just so well done. The song that's playing which I actually really like this song. And the lyrics are they fit so well to what is happening.
And everyone's questioning whether they made the right choice.
Right. It's like, are you sure this is where you want to be? Oh, it's so good. I was dying when I watched, because I kind of forgot how this episode ended, but I don't know. Maybe it's because it ends with Jack and Kate, but I loved it.
That's totally why you're Raven.
I know. It's so sad.
But it is good. And it's good for other reasons beyond Jack and Kate too. I like that Michael and Walt seem to be kind of reconnecting, which is nice. Or I guess not reconnecting, they're just connecting.
Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah. Do you feel like Sawyer is right and the pessimists went to the caves and the hopeful ones stayed on the beach?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like I'm a pessimist, so I would have gone to the caves.
Right. And earlier, it was Saeed who kept saying that hope would be one of the most dangerous things to lose right now. And so he's like Team Beach.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
It adds a good consistency to his character.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know if I see like optimist from Kate. She seems like the only one who I'm not sure if that's why she's there. To me, it seems like Kate is avoiding a situation at the caves, whereas maybe everyone else on the beach is there for optimistic reasons.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely the outlier here.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like we said earlier, she just can't dig in. She doesn't want to go to the caves and start setting up house. That's just not her MO.
Right.
But yeah, that's my favorite ending of any episode we've had up to this point.
Wow. That's a high statement.
It's so good. The song is so good.
This is better than Locke's wheelchair burning in the fire.
Yeah. That's hard.
This speaks to you personally, though.
It does. And it's not just Jack and Kate. It's just the contrast we get with, like you said, Michael and Walt and Sun unpacking. And I like these slow, introspective endings with music. I feel like Lost does them every now and then, and they're always kind of my favorites.
I like them a lot, too. And they're very foreboding. You get an eerie sense every time. Like, even though this song is not, I mean, it's not like a super jolly song, but...
Do you get an eerie sense when you watch this scene?
I do, yeah.
Oh, I feel like it's more melancholy and heartbreaking.
It is. I do get that too. But I get so many mixed feelings. I feel like they're all just sitting there wondering if they made the right choice. Did I make a mistake? Mm-hmm. And that just makes me think like what your mistake is going to be.
Yeah.
And like to me, it's foreboding just to think of how the camp is already dividing itself. Because that's like my biggest takeaway here is that now we have split into two. And what does this mean? Because the very last episode we had ended with you better stick together or else we're all going to die alone.
Yeah, it's like a big deal that they're now split into two groups. You're right.
Right. So I think that's kind of the eerie note. Like that's why it feels so wrong.
That makes so much sense. I didn't even think about it from that perspective. I'm too busy crying about Jack and Kate. That's really good. Were you able to think of any themes for this episode?
So the thing that I thought was the biggest, I always like write mine in the form of a question. Uh-huh. And the question I wrote was, what are the consequences of miscommunication?
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Because that seems to be what's happening with Sun and Jen and Jack and Kate.
Yeah.
The Sun is losing Jen because she knows he can't tell her whatever bad things he's doing for her father. And she knows he's doing something bad. Mm-hmm. But like they just can't communicate. They can't talk about it at all. The fact that they literally can't communicate with the other people because of their language barrier. And that left Jen handcuffed to the plane wreckage.
Right.
Like, it literally locked him down, and it's not like that was all miscommunication, because I don't think you should attack someone with your fist when you don't know how to talk to them.
Yeah, that's pretty drastic.
But I guess that was his way of dealing with it.
Right.
Because he has no other way to communicate, I guess, other than physically.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, it's just like that conflict with the watch would have been resolved so simply if Jin could just say, "That's my watch, give it back."
Right.
But he couldn't.
Yeah. Just talk to each other, guys.
Lesson of the day. Oh, and with Charlie, like, his storyline fit into that too. It wasn't until Charlie opened up and connected with somebody that he got his guitar and he let go of the drugs and became happy. Because before he was so isolated and just kind of like in his own Charlie addiction world. But Locke like made the effort to reach out to him.
Right. Ugh.
And Charlie actually accepted it.
Yeah. And they ended up in a better place.
So I feel like they're a good lesson to the other two couples happening right now.
Yeah. They should take a leaf out of Locke and Charlie's foot. Definitely.
The finest couple around.
Right.
So what were you thinking?
Well, I mean, I'll just say that, you know, I always struggle coming up with a theme. And I wrote down something, but I kind of felt like I was missing the more obvious theme, which is what you just said. That makes total sense to me. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that. But, I mean, I wrote down faith. Mm-hmm. Like the idea that you have to believe in something in order for you to get anything in return.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of thinking that Locke uses his belief in the island. You know, he uses that faith to help Charlie find his guitar.
Yeah.
And then you could also make the argument that Jack is putting his faith in the caves. I mean, you could also say that everyone on the beach is lacking in faith. Like, everyone who decides to stay there doesn't feel that same way.
Yeah, which is funny because I never think of Jack as the guy with faith.
I know.
But one conversation with Locke, I guess, really flips you on your head.
Yeah, he's still reeling from that.
And I think to connect that to Sun and Jen, if Jen just had faith that Sun just loves him and wants to be with him, he wouldn't be doing all this horrible stuff. He's too insecure in their relationship when all he needs to do is have faith that she wanted him for him, not for any money or anything that he could give her.
Yeah, and then you could also say that Sun, you know, decides to put her faith in Jin at the end and not walk out of that airport.
Yeah, because logically, she should probably go.
Right.
Things aren't looking very good.
No.
But I'm glad she chooses that because now she's on the island.
Yes.
She may not be so glad right now.
Yeah.
I like this episode a lot.
I do too. I think it's well done.
It's a really dense episode.
Yeah, it is. And it has to juggle a lot of different plots and subplots happening, but I think it ties them all together pretty well.
It does. And I don't feel like any of them are negligible.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, you know, like earlier we had like Charlie and Hurley fishing and like it was all fun stuff and I'm glad we had it, but it was throwaway, you know, like,
right.
This is just for fun. And hardly a moment in this episode feels like that.
Yeah. This is like deep, heavy decisions they're making. I completely agree.
And we're learning about a lot of characters too. Mm-hmm. Did it surprise you when Kate wouldn't go to the caves?
The first time I watched it, yes.
I just think that this episode is surprisingly illuminative of Kate, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think it does seem like she would just go along because she's been going along with pretty much whatever Jack wants so far.
Right. And it's just they have such an obvious connection that...
Yeah.
I mean, my reaction was kind of like Jack's. He was like, what are you talking about? Of course you're coming with me.
Yeah. But you can't assume nothing, not with Kate.
God, these two. Okay.
Definitely a good episode.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. Okay, so that's the show for this week, guys. Don't forget to follow us on all social media. Instagram, which is at The Lost Podcast. Facebook at Freckles and Blondie. And visit our website at thelostpodcast.com. And you can also email us there at Randy or Tiffany at The Lost Podcast. And also don't forget, if you're enjoying the show, please rate and review and subscribe on iTunes. We really appreciate it, and it definitely helps new podcasts like ours.
For sure. Not everybody can donate, and we totally get that, but everybody can leave a review. So if you like it, you should definitely share it.
Yes. Please, please, please. If you like what you're hearing so far and would like to support us on Patreon, please go to the page and donate whatever you can afford. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for listening to Freckles and Blondie. Next week, we're going to be discussing Lost Episode 7, The Moth, which is all about Charlie. So Randy is super psyched.
I love that episode.
I have zero recollection of this episode, so it should be very interesting.
Yay.
You won't want to miss it. So we'll see you then. Until then, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Randy.
And this has been Freckles and Blondie.